Hi, this is Anna. Imagine it was one of those mornings. This is Anna Imagination with a Healing Garden. And welcome to Philosophical Coffee. Just a moment. I want to start up my music. I'm having one of those things where it's like all the way around, I'm indulging. If you are new to this is a morning show where we go all things healing. It's about 90 minutes. And we talk about topics. We zoom in on topics for your healing purposes, from narcissism, boundaries, communications, the mindset of healing, healing tools, healing skills. And then about halfway through, we do meditation, we do positive affirmations, we do journaling. Pen and paper, not digital, not typing. It must be pen and paper. To open up and create new pathways in your brain. My philosophy is my healing is 100% holistic. It is 100% neuroscience based, and it is philosophy. It is done through logic and deductive reasoning, and it's highly effective. So let me just get my music up here, and I want to talk about beliefs today because I had an interesting evening. I had an amazing evening. It was every time 4:30 rolls around for me, I have this sense of not dread, but just emptiness. And almost immediately depression sits in. Not depression, but just this sad blah sits in. And I noticed it routinely about 3 days ago. So I started to do mental work, and my relationship is undefined. It's one of those things that is non-existent to sometimes it's there. And it's having a relationship like this has required a lot of sit down and thought with mental. And because it's undefined, I've had to find an interesting way to deal with it. And I've gotten a lot of advice, and it's something I'm not open to receive anymore because the advice is the same. The problem is what we know about romance and love is 100% from romance love. And they have a really high divorce rate, so they don't know what they're doing. So I don't like to take advice or information from romantic love because the outcome is clearly, I'm going to be very blunt. It's narcissistic. So whenever someone advises me on romance or love, in most cases, what I'm getting is narcissistic advice, literally how to be a narcissist in your relationship. So I don't accept much of it. There's a lot that I don't touch. So I have to do a lot of my own reverse engineering, my own philosophy. And this leads me to the subject of beliefs. This is interesting. So if you follow my work, you're most likely familiar with something I call the cognitive core. The cognitive core is the abstract concept inside of our subconscious minds that builds our perspective. It is made up of 5 parts. It is your identity. It is your ethics and your values. This is your logical health. And then you have your beliefs. And then you have your naming and your perspective. This is your story health. And the beliefs is, people could talk about a belief system, and it's not a system, but the beliefs are interesting to me. I was talking to Maury, he is my neuroscientist friend, and he has an interesting thought on beliefs, which is very, interesting, not new, very new with some things, depending on where you look. He said that beliefs should be fluid and variable. And the problem that we run into is when they become fixed. And I went, Now, it's true. It's 100% true. But he didn't refer to one belief. He referred to all of them. And I took it a step further and thought, why not remove the belief system altogether? That would really eliminate, and mind you, I'm still mulling this over. It's not definitive. But went to bed last night thinking about this. that if we remove the belief system, what do we really gain from it? Now, the identity, I know that. The identity is required. The identity is love. It is what you love and what you want. You need it. Without the identity, you don't exist, which is what a lot of people's problem is. The next part is the values and the ethics. And the values and the ethics define what is important to you, what you need to be doing, what you should prioritize, what you should focus on. It is your personal law. Really, that's it. It's your personal law. So you have your identity and your rules, your personal rules. And that's it. That's what you love and your personal rules. So then we get into the beliefs, and I'm going, why? Like, all I can think of is, first of all, I have to say this. I'm out of the system. I have been out of the system for more than a year now. I don't live in your system. I live in my own world. I live in my own, I am literally of a different culture. I have my own culture and I'm a population of one. And my culture is, I have had to systematically remove all of Wonderland out of me. And I noticed that the majority of the garbage that I had to clean out was my beliefs. That's what they go for. Now, abuse also targets your identity. That's what narcissism does. It targets your love. Well, everything else targets your belief system. Narcissism goes right for the kill, and it targets what you love and how you love. It destroys the self. But do we need beliefs? If they're variable, what do they give us? If you know who you are, and if you know what you value and what your laws are, now those you need. The entire identity in existentialism breaks down. You have an existential crisis if you don't have those two things. But can you live without your beliefs? And I hear a bunch of second perspectives going, no. But that's my point. Are beliefs something that we out-evolve, that we grow out of, that we no longer need? Our beliefs, really, what are they? I really want to dive into this. And the reason why this is so imperative is because beliefs are the things that get in our way. In fact, I'm trying to figure out a positive that we get from our beliefs. Because what we get is, let me put it to you this way. Where I am right now with my partner, there was basically an exchange around the 16th of December, and it resulted in him saying, I can't talk to you, and I don't know for how long. And I thought, wow, that's improvement. Usually he just vanishes. So this is great. This is progress. But it's now December 29th, and I don't know if he's coming back. And I don't believe he's coming back. I don't. And he might, but I don't believe it. So being in that state of toggling, I'm going, which is healthier for me? Do I wait? Of course, that's not healthy. So I realized last night that it's most healthy for me if I just assume he's not coming back and start, which is where my evenings, 5 o'clock hits, and I'm going, what do I do with my evenings? And I realized that it's all about my beliefs. And I noticed it last night where I finally said the words, I don't believe he's coming back. And that allowed me to start thinking differently. It allowed me to start, listen to the words I am saying. It allowed me to think differently. That's what a belief does. That is exactly what a belief does. It allows you to think a certain way, just to think a certain way. Now, the identity doesn't do that. Nope, she doesn't. The values and the ethics don't do that. The belief literally is the determining factor. So how are you going to think? And because it allows me to think a certain way, it allowed me to plan and change my behavior, which I could not do if I didn't believe a different way. Isn't this extraordinary? Like, it really is very powerful. So going back to the idea of it being flexed or variable or fixed. The other thought that I had was I have like my mode, I am a solo self mode. I love solo self. I am solo self and I will be solo self for the rest of my life. Solo self is neither single nor coupled, nor it's nothing. It does not exist inside that standards. I am different, separated from that. I'm free. So I'm solo self. And then there is the paired self, who I am when I'm in a relationship. And then there's the integrated self. And romantic love, narcissist love, same thing, will have you doing the paired self to the point where you annihilate your full self. And then, oh, I hear a whole bunch of philosophers arguing with me, going, no, that's a state of being. You could reverse the entire thing by saying that the romantic love is X, but narcissists take romantic love and turn it into this. But the romantic love stays solo and independent, depending upon how it's used. Very good argument. I did not think about that. I'll have to think about that further. I'll come back to that. Really interesting point you bring up. Interesting. I'll get back to that. So you have your solo self, you have your paired self, and you have your integrated self. And I realized last night that the solo self and the paired self are supposed to be like integrated in this 3 parts of the self, which we don't do in our culture. Well, I'm out of that culture. I'm trying to create this one now. And this is what I came up with. And I went, I love this. I love this. So I'm definitely taking all of this slow. It's really I am in new territory. Very, very new territory. And when I healed, and this is it. This is like the big picture. So I was talking to a lady yesterday about education, and there is something called hierarchy education. We don't do it. This is it. So hierarchy education, and it's really funny because we should be doing this with our education, but we do equality with our education. But the society is hierarchical when it should be equal. So it's like we have them reversed. Hierarchical versus equal. In education, you have 8 subjects, and they're all at the bottom, and you're supposed to learn them. We all know this. So you are studying math for 12 years. And you are studying reading and writing for 12 years. And you are studying biased fictional history for 12 years. And you see the problem. Now, that's not how Plato teaches people. I did something called hierarchical education. Really? Really? That's how I'm different. That's really how I'm different. I did this. I didn't do what everybody else does. I still went to school, and it was painfully dull for me, but I was doing my own studies on the side. What I was doing was hierarchical education. So my brain is a direct result of hierarchical education. And I got lucky because I love art a lot, and I don't, the words, I don't conform. I've never been able to conform, which is why I was abused as badly as I was. And I started to break down the first 8 years of education. This is according to how I was raised. This is how I raised myself. This is how I learned. And then I took the 12 stages of ethical perspective growth, and then I took it with Plato. This all has to do with healing, I promise. And then I took Plato's curriculum from the academia, and I put it all together, and it matched. I then took the developmental ages of the human person from infancy all the way up to about 20 years old, 17, and I continued it there, and it matched. I also know that this is one of my key points here, is that in brain science, the human brain's communication center shuts off at the brain at 8 years old. Our ability to learn language instantly decreases to almost nothing at 8 years old. it's almost as if we should be learning everything we should be learning about communication by the time we're 8. Ironically, the 8th ethical perspective also aligns with this massive amount of communication, which isn't happening because we are not in a hierarchical educational system. So, this is the first problem with our culture as to why I think there's so much mental health. Exhibit A is because we're not learning this. We are learning in the equality style that it's horrible. Now, after you go through these first 8 hierarchical, and what it is you've got your subjects. You spend 1 year and all you do is learn this. Imagine doing nothing. And I did this. It's possible. Instead of doing, okay, I'm just going to do music theory for 1 hour every day for 12 years. I'm going to do music theory for 12 hours. I did it for 12 hours and nothing else. Okay, I did music theory in music and piano. I did music theory, singing and piano, and musical composition. And I did those 4 things literally for a year, 8 hours, and nothing else. So that when I was studying the mathematics at school, I was incorporating it on purpose in my music theory. And then when I was doing theater, art, stage, that's all I did for a year. Now, instead of sharing all of this time with everything else, I was reading Shakespeare. I was going over metric. I was going over meter. And then I got into mathematics and geometry. Same thing. Now, once you reach that point, you start philosophy. Now, philosophy is literally all of the mastery of the subjects from this point on. And it is learning how to learn. That's the first thing you study. And you spend a year learning how to learn. And then you learn how to teach. And you learn logical deductive reasoning. And this is what you do for a year. All you do. The first year of philosophy is just this. You learn how to learn. It was around this time that my brain opened up and I went, oh my God, I can think. And that is around the same time I was tested and I had an IQ of 180. It was this. And I'm going, oh my God, it's this. This is what caused it. And then from there, I did physics, history, psychology, metaphysics, economics, sociology, calculus. I stopped at calculus. I did a little bit of calculus. I mean, like probably 20 pages in that book. And existentialism, ontology, and then something that I just found the word to, interdisciplinary, interdisciplinarity. And I went, oh yes, interdisciplinarity is an amazing word. I just found it. It was extraordinary. What this has to do with mental health? Well, this is the big picture of the human brain, the human mind. And when you don't do this, you struggle learning. When you struggle learning, well, you become less evolved. It actually stunts your growth. So you don't go through the 12 stages of ethical perspective growth. These 12 stages are really important. Really important. And when they're downloaded, when you understand them, and it's really interesting. Really interesting. And taking all of these pieces, I need to step back, look at the omniscient for a minute, and try and explain what I'm trying to say here. The way we do things is backwards, and it's fucking everybody up. That's the problem. And if you want to heal, you really need a big picture. But a lot of people don't know quite what the big picture is because they did not master a lot of these subjects. I did. I have something called interdisciplinarity. Interdisciplinarity allows me the ability to see things in a first-person point of view, third-person point of view, and omniscient point of view, and it allows me to see how all of the subjects are really different perspectives of the same subject, and I know that subject. That my mastery is not in these subjects, it's in the cocktail that these subjects create. But no one knows about these. Because in order to do this, you need to study at least 5 of these topics and master them, and you need to know what interdisciplinarity is. And because people don't know this, they don't see the big picture. So yesterday, because of my current relationship conundrum, I decided to indulge on the solo self. And it had been so long, because I was a slave, that I didn't even know who I was anymore. At 5 o'clock, that was the time my husbands came home, and I had to serve them. And I had to sit beside them and be at their beck and call. So yesterday was the first time I really had to think about who and what I wanted to do. So I did yoga. That was nice. And then I did something I haven't done in a very long time. I picked up a physical book, Alexander Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo, and I read a book because I noticed I was getting annoyed at social media. I noticed that I was getting really pissed off at how mundane and stupid the garbage is. I love cats, but I waste probably 6 hours of my gorgeous brain time every night watching stupid people with their cats. And I'm going, my time can be better well spent. So I put down the social media and I went over to Google, and I found my Google feed is fit up to bring in things on black holes, physics, metaphysics, Aristotle, philosophy. So I picked a physics article and I read it, which is something I was not supposed to do because I'm a girl. Yeah. And I did it. And the reason why I haven't done it before is because I believed I wasn't supposed to because I was a girl. Yeah. Beliefs. And then I started to realize how much these beliefs are still in my head. So I went, all right, physics. It's time. I went over to Wikipedia because when I read and study, I read the dictionary and the encyclopedia. That's my happy place. So I went over to the encyclopedia and I read physics. And I received some really interesting information. Like I went through it and it was just the introduction. And then I turned around and I bought Aristotle's book, Physics. And while that was downloading, I was reading Alexander Dumas. And I was reading his books. And the psychology in my brain was going, Anna, you are having a relationship with Alexander right now. And I'm like, yes, I am. This man gave me his words 200 years ago. And here I am reading his words from 200 years ago. He gave them to me. I have received them. And now I am reading them. Look at that. I'm having an emotional transaction with Alexander Dumas. Now, prior to my studies, I could not put these things into words. Now I can. Because I often jokingly, but not quite jokingly, refer to these people as my husbands because I have an emotional relationship with them. This man, he sings for me. Every time he sings for me and me alone. And it's because his people were the outcasts. And that's me. And he sings for me. And I am his people. And he gives that to me. And I receive his gorgeous voice and his music. And I go, oh, I have a relationship with Freddie Mercury. I really do. I also have a relationship with Shakespeare. And I have a relationship with Edgar Allan Poe and Jules Verne and Victor Hugo. I'm polyamorous. And Puccini. Oh, I could go on. But I'm reading these words that Dumas wrote. And it's an emotional transaction that he started 200 years ago that I am completing. And I had a moment where I just went, thank you, Dumas. Thank you. I'm waiting for him to say you're welcome. And then something else occurred to me, that I'm getting ready to pick up Aristotle. His words are 2,000 years old. 2,000. 2,000. I read Homer. I've read Gilgamesh. I've read Beowulf. And I had this moment where I'm like, I started the audiobook and I'm going, I am receiving this man's word from 2,000 years ago. And I could feel the emotional energy where he was giving me his words with the emotions that he infused into those words. And I received them. And I'm going, wow. Aristotle gets a lot of hate in the physics world. And Freud is loved more in the psychology world than Aristotle is loved in the physics world. But Aristotle comes to you in a world of logic. And he was one of the first 2,000 years ago when they thought the sun was not the center. So I would say that's pretty damn fucking impressive. And unlike Freud, if your work can survive 2,000 years, it's something to talk about. So I decided to start at the beginning with my physics studies and read physics by Aristotle. And I was reading and I was doing yoga. And I put the phone down. And I forgot that I was, first and foremost, a student. If I'm not learning, I'm not me. And I love that I decided to start with physics. I'm going through it, and there is this hierarchy of sciences. Mathematics, ontology, and I had to go, what the hell is ontology? So I looked it up, and it's something I've already mastered. They just have a name for it. And I'm like, oh, I did it. It's basically a branch of philosophy. Ontology is a branch of philosophy that allows you to look into metaphysics. And there's a lot more to it, but it's basically existentialism. It is existentialism. So I've already got ontology down. And then from there, you're supposed to go into physics. And then from there, you're supposed to go into chemistry. And then, get this, and then astronomy and geology. And I went, wow, that's interesting. Now, here's the fun part. That's the same curriculum that Plato followed. So now that my psychology and my philosophy is done, now that my studies in psychology is done and sociology, I can now move on to the next subject. And the next subject in the lineup is calculus, trigonometry, mathematics, and physics. So I will be learning those all along the same line. And I'm only 43. And it took me 30 years to get this far with the knowledge I have. And I'm going, yes, my goal is to learn all of these so that I can continue to make this interdisciplinarity. So what does this do for healing? I will tell you what this means for your healing. When a person heals, well, no, that's not how I want to start my story. What this means for your healing is this. There are 12 perspectives that are your coordinates. It's where you are. Time. My God, I love my brain. I've worked very hard for it. And I appreciate. Not arrogance, it's gratitude. I appreciate my brain. Time is a location. That is what time is. It is a precise location on where we are in relationship to the black hole. That is what time is. We have broken time down to the point of 9:27 a.m. on December 29th, 2023. And that tells you precisely how far away from the black hole we are. This is a dimension. A dimension is only a slot of time, a slot, a space that tells us where we are in relativity to the black hole. The point of beginning is not the beginning of the universe, it's the beginning of our time. Because the further away from the black hole you get, the faster time goes. This is important. So when we say the past, we are referring to any and all dimensions prior to this point. And when we say the future, we are referring to all dimensions, all coordinates that have not yet occurred. It doesn't occur. Physics. From this point forward. They've already occurred. They're happening now. We're just not there yet because we exist in this point in the now. When we are traumatized, what's really going on is we are being forced into a different dimension. But it's not the kind of dimension you think. We are dimension walkers. It's really fucking cool, and I made up that name because it's really cool. We're dimension walkers. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. Christ is a dimension walker. I think that's where he went. He figured out how to walk the different dimensions. Now, some people call this time travel. It's dimension walking, and we do it all the time. We do it when we imagine. We dimension walk when we dream. We dimension walk when we have PTSD. We have dimension walk when we assume. We dimension walk when we gossip. We dimension walk every time we do art. Our imaginations are dimensions. They are the dimensions of the future. Manifestation. Let's get the spirituality out of there. Let's get the religion out of there. Manifestation is the choosing what dimension you want to walk into in your future. Yes, this has to do with healing. Physics has to do with healing. In fact, interdisciplinarity, everything has to do with everything. Understanding how is the key. So here's how all this comes together. Once you understand and accept that you are a dimension walker, suddenly you start to look at psychology really different because you can start to see how trauma keeps you frozen in a single dimension while you and everybody else continues to walk through the others. When you have PTSD, you are trying to exist in two dimensions at the same time. That's why it hurts. But wait, there's more dimensions. I just gave you the time. The time is just one dimension. The other type of dimension, because dimensions can be broken down into pieces, is your perspective. Not your perspective as in your opinion, your perspective as in one of the 12 perspectives. That is another dimension. But wait, there's more. There are 4 different types, 4 different categories of the 12 perspectives. You can be in the eye of I, which is first person point of view. That's where all of us are right now, except me. Everybody else, I am certain maybe there might be a few more. Very, very, very few. I just haven't found them yet, who are in the second point of view. And that is the you of I. Now, the I of I, first person point of view, consists of 12 perspectives. Every one of these is a dimension. And the first person point of view is another dimension. The second person point of view is another dimension. And then you have the they of I, which is a third point of view. And that's another dimension. And then you have the omniscient point of view at that fourth point, which is another dimension. And once you get all 4 of those, it opens up another dimension. It's really cool. I refer to this as the 1 of 12 of all formula, 1 of 12 of infinity. This literally goes on forever. It's really fucking cool. That being said, I exist in the first perspective of the second person point of view, you of I, in 2023, which is the 4th perspective age. So I exist, this is my coordinates, in the first perspective of the second point of view in the 4th perspective era. That tells me precisely my distance from, well, that thing, the black hole. Now I have my coordinates, which answers the very second, third question of Socrates, where are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? Well, here's the coordinates. It's why I called it a philosopher's compass. It's because it gives you coordinates. Now, once you know your coordinates, you stop having an existential crisis. When you stop having your existential crisis, your healing ends. You're healed. You're done. But you got to know exactly what your coordinates are. Because once you know your coordinates, now you've got to become authoritative of your coordinates. Because, and here's the problem. The pandemic that's happening with the world today is a bunch of fourth perspectives of the first perspective, are walking around telling a bunch of people that everyone needs to be in their dimension. No. Everybody is being told that they have to be in their dimension. So a lot of people are being forced into the fourth perspective. This is going to hurt anyone who is not in the fourth perspective. If you're in the fourth perspective, you're fine, but probably not, because you were probably put there prematurely, or you were probably put there against your will. The problem is we're back to those beliefs again. We are designed to move. We are designed to change. We have 4 variations of 12 perspectives that we should be going through, but we've stalled out at the fourth perspective, first person point of view, which is holding a lot of us in place at one perspective. If you are part of a tradition or a culture that's real heavy on making sure you honor the traditions, well, that is the second perspective, first point of view. You're not going anywhere. If you are in a tradition or a culture that is very violent and aggressive, you are in a third perspective, and you are most likely not watching this movie. So, once you understand that every one of these perspectives is a dimension, and we are dimension walkers, that we have to honor and grow and evolve and shift and be ready to change with these perspectives. Now, here's the problem. You don't get to do this journey with anybody. You get to imagine you have a spaceship and you are shifting and moving. I've said it before. I was on a road and I felt that I was being called. I forgot. I wrote those words. Now they make sense. I do this a lot. It's really awesome. Oh my God, I wrote these so long ago. Some women marry and settle down. Others slut around. But I am Satan's wife. I am a gypsy, a rover, a rogue. I come from everywhere and nowhere. I go where I'm wanted. I do what I want, when I want, where I want. And I leave before I can be thrown away. Okay, that was total mental illness speaking right there. I am on a road. I am alone. Always alone. People come and people go. Some walk alongside me for a ways. I may stop on occasion and lose myself in a torrent love affair. But I am a storm. I am the sea. And in the end, I take up my things and keep going. I have to keep going. Something calls me and I must follow. I can't see where I'm going, only that I must, only where I've been. Ahead is only the voice that calls me. So, yeah, that's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like. It's like I'm on this massive, only it feels more like I'm on a ship now. And it feels more like I'm an explorer and a pioneer. And I finally have a group of people who can understand my language. And here's the other thing. Every one of these perspectives speaks differently. This is why you hear kids these days from the fourth perspectives, because they're hearing language from the fifth and sixth perspectives that they don't understand. That's what I'm talking about. And when you start to realize how embedded into us all of these perspectives are, you start to notice shit. You start to see shit. And what I see is a lot of fourth perspectives trying to govern the world with only 4 perspectives. And I see people who were told by fourth perspectives that you can only study one subject, maybe two. And I'm going, interdisciplinarity. Interdisciplinarity is philosophy. This is a subject that I've had a really hard time with my whole life. I remember, I'm just going to read to you what I wrote last what I said last night. Interdisciplinary studies. No words sum up philosophy better than this. When I started philosophy, I asked the question, what is philosophy? And this was in 1995, and I was told that it meant lover of wisdom. In 2022, at the end of my philosophy, psychology, and sociological research, as I shifted into physics, economics, and dimension theory, I would have tried to define philosophy as psychology. Now, in 2023, philosophy is the interdisciplinary studies of all the subjects into one, and philosophy means wisdom love. And it truly is. When you study philosophy, you are not studying a subject. The School of Philosophy, University at Alexandria, they didn't teach philosophy as a single subject. They taught all the subjects. This is really like, if I could just sit every person down in the world, put my hands right there on their head and say, listen to me. You are thinking of this wrong. It isn't, there's philosophy, and then there's science, and then there's no. Philosophy is all of those subjects. Philosophy is all of them. Physics is a branch of philosophy, and psychology is a branch of philosophy. If you have studied physics, you are a philosopher. You've only studied one. If you are a sociologist, well, you've studied one. If you're a psychologist, you've studied one. Economist, one. Economist. Why are you only studying one? Because fourth perspectives told you you couldn't do more. And then after 10 years of studying your one subject, maybe 8 years, what was it, 4 years? 4 years. They sent you to work. I didn't do that. I had 30 years, and all I did was study. But by the time I was 8, I already had art down. By the time I was 15, I already had that down. So I did little else except study philosophy. And I do mean all of these subjects right up until the hard sciences. Well, is physics a hard science? Is it? Yeah. Psychology took a lot of time for me. And it just got to this point where I'm going, there's a whole thing, there's a whole world here that no one knows about. Not even a philosopher. Philosophers will go to college. They'll learn the history of philosophy. They will learn the ideas of other people, and then they'll go teach. And I'm going, does no one know? No one knows this. No one sees this. So when I look up interdisciplinarity, I'm going, oh, holy shit. So interdisciplinarity is the subject that combines all the subjects. Well, according to the internet, it's 2 or more subjects into a single subject so that you create something new. It is we want to build a bridge. Well, we're going to need a mathematician. We're going to need a chemist. We're going to need a geometrist. So that you get these 3 people together and you build a bridge. And then you're going to need somebody who does geography. You're going to need, and as a philosopher, I'm looking at it going, no, interdisciplinarity is the philosophy. It's the art of taking all of these subjects, learning and mastering at least 5 of them. Yes, 5 mastery, and then combining them into one subject, which is, I make subject cocktails all the time and I love doing it. And I could see it. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and the more I talked, the more I could, the more we were interacting, and we were trying to have a conversation, but I'm listening to her going, your points are obsolete. They're irrelevant, because she's only telling me from 2 subjects from a fourth perspective, first person point of view. And I'm going, it's moot because she's lacking so much other information. Not her fault. Fourth perspective rules. I don't play by those rules. So I'm looking at this going, oh, wow. So now when we heal, this is the interdisciplinarity, what healing is from the omniscient point of view of the 12th perspective. This is really what it is. You are finding your place in the universe by ending your existential crisis, by determining who you are. And to do this, you need the philosopher's compass, which is kind of outlined a little bit by Socrates, which is your who am I, where am I going, why am I here, what am I for? And that's where I pull out the cognitive core and I explain, okay, that's your identity. And then that is your values and your ethics, which is the 12 stages of ethical perspective growth. Where are you in that lineup? And it's predictable. It's math. It's science. It's not an opinion. The 12 stages of ethical perspective growth are so hardcore and indented. It is 100% accuracy 100% of the time. It's extraordinary. And then I look at the beliefs and I'm going, how much of our beliefs are getting in our way? Do we need them? Let's evaluate the evidence. The only time I access my belief system is when I'm trying to do something, but the fourth perspectives have ingrained into my subconscious mind that I can't or shouldn't. Interesting. I can't get over this. Like, this really sits hard with me, where I'm just going, do you need a belief? Do you really need your beliefs in there? I'm thinking about it. So I am actively going where my beliefs are now viable. They are 100% variable and they flux. If I can remove them altogether. I'm lying in bed last night and I love sleeping. My sleep is really weird because let me tell you about my sleep. I don't sleep like normal people. Because I used to sleep like normal people and now I'm sleeping the way I'm sleeping and I'm going, this is different. So when you reach a certain level of interdisciplinary in thought and you understand all the workings of the subconscious mind and how all this ebbs and flows together, this gets really fucking cool. It's like surreal. So basically the dimensions walking all comes out. The processing occurs, the dimension walking occurs, the imagination's over here. Identity is dancing with unicorns through my mind. And I'm like, woo, it's a party. And I'm looking at everything. And I'm going, okay. I go to bed thinking, he's not coming back. Make the appropriate adjustments. And I can feel my brain shifting. And the logic is smooth because it's making sense now. And I'm able to go on with my life and I feel at peace. Peace equals cognitive harmony. That's what I've decided. Peace and happiness is cognitive harmony. You really want to know what happiness is? It is inside of you. It is called logic, peace, happiness, and cognitive harmony. And I felt the cognitive harmony click. Where I went, okay, I'm going to assume a life where he's not coming back. I am the solo self. I love being the solo self. Now I just got to figure out who I am after 5 p.m. at night. And I'm going to be a yoga person, and I'm going to be a book person, and I'm going to go to school. I'm going to study philosophy, calculus, trig. I even have a person who's going to help me with calc if I need it. So I'm like, yes, I'm very excited about all of this. And I love algebraic equations. My brain is like, yay, numbers. I love. So that's settled. And I was reading and I was like, oh my God, did I miss reading books? Not ebooks, books. Oh my God, it felt so good. So I had all of this down. And I went to sleep. And I have these epiphanies when I sleep. So I'll wake up and I'll have very clear thought. And I'll sleep like 3 hours. I always wake up at 3 a.m. And I'll go to sleep thinking, basically using my RAS, purposely conditioning my RAS I do this every night. This is my mental health routine. I strongly recommend you do it. It's basically conditioning your RAS so that you basically mold your beliefs out of your own way. We're going to do that here in a minute when we do the meditation, when we do the gratitude journaling. But this is why, is because we are using logic to mold all of the toxic beliefs out of our way while we sleep. And when we sleep, our subconscious mind downloads. So I don't know yet if this is proven. I need to talk to Maury about it, ask him what he thinks. Yeah, that's going to be a fantastic topic. I will email him today and ask him this about whether or not doing positive affirmations before sleeps. I think he said no. But that being said, here's the other problem. Let's flip over here because this is something I've noticed. Interdisciplinarity. Neuroscientists have only studied neuroscience and physics and biology. And I'm going, well, they're missing psychology. In fact, when I was reading this article last night on physics, they listed physics as part of ABC, and they went through it. And I went, what about psychology? Psychology wasn't even on the list. I know why, too. And I went, oh, no. Psychology is science. Psychology is very much on that list. Psychology is part of physics. It's emotional physics. Oh, my God. And I have this knowledge. I have the physics from philosophy because I studied logic. I was able to identify, locate, and I'm writing up all the laws of physics that apply to emotions and psychology. Psychology is physics. It's the same goddamn thing. Electricity, energy, this is why I'm studying physics. Electricity and electromagnetic, all of that. Oh, here's one. So I got off the phone and I was like running around last night like, and I went, something is going on. Energy. Why am I running so fast? What is energy? Well, let's think about this for a minute. Now, I don't have ADHD. I think I do. But it comes and it goes and I know how to manage it. And this is good. This gets really interesting. All right, I'm just going to talk with my language. ADHD is when somebody who lives at a higher dimension is being forced to slow down and be put into a different dimension that is not theirs. In fact, I have the exact physics formula, which one of the reasons why I started studying physics yesterday in depth like I did was to find the corrected formula, not the corrected formula, but the adjusted formula to explain ADHD using physics. The formula is, let me pull it up here, energy equals, well, let's see if I can remember it. Oh, I can remember it. Energy equals mass times velocity squared. That's the formula. That's the pace in which we are supposed to be moving. But with ADHD, if you are a 6th perspective or a 12th perspective and you're forced to go at a 4th perspective, that's going to fuck up that physics formula. I want to know what the fuck uppery is. So I started studying physics so I could get the correct formula. Because when you have somebody with ADHD, but I know that we're carburetors. I know that we're batteries. I know that emotions are the things that pop in our battery brain that turn us into positive or negative charge. I know this. I know that energy is, I know why we are overheated, why some of us run at a few degrees higher is because our energy is interesting. Which is why some of us run colder is because we're not producing the energy. Fascinating. Like I said, this is all physics. So when I started to look into energy and electricity and magnetism and psychology, they are like this combined. And I am basically the formula that I just gave you is dimensional theory. It's not dimensional theory. It's dimension. Oh, let me look it up here. I gotta look up this link. Oh, here it is. Okay. Nope, that's Newton. Oh, quark matter cores. No, that's not it. Quark. Dimension of energy. That's what it's called. Literally, that is what it's called. The dimension of energy. That's the dimensional formula of energy. And I know that we are dimension walkers. Dimensional formula of energy. That is mass, length, time. Now that's different Derivation is, okay, so the actual measurement is mass to the first power, length times to the squared, and time -2 power. The dimensional formula of energy is given by. And then the derivation is energy equals mass times velocity squared, where mass and since velocity is time, there it is. The dimensional formula of velocity equals, on substituting equation in equation, we get energy equals mass. Okay. So that all being said, I'm looking at it going, yeah, ADHD is when somebody who lives at a perspective dimension. And what did I say? That the dimensions, the slots are the coordinates of time when we are in relative to where the Big Bang is. And the further away from it you get, the faster time speeds up. So that if you're up here, you're going at a faster pace than people who are here. So if you're a 12th perspective, you are going to go really fucking fast. But if you're a 4th perspective, you're going to go really slow in comparison. Now, if you have somebody who's supposed to be in this dimension, who are in that dimension, and they're being forced to live in this dimension, they're going to have to slow down, and boom, that's when you get ADHD. The people who are put there experience trauma, which is why they have PTSD. Is because they have been abused to the point where they don't think they can go on to their own dimension. So they slow themselves down, making themselves stupider, dumber, holding themselves back to ensure that they stay within the confines. And that explains that, because my youngest daughter was significantly abused by my oldest daughter because she wasn't as smart. There it is. There it is. Which is why she has ADHD. My oldest daughter is a fucking genius. The problem is it was glorified to the point where she then mocked my youngest daughter, and my youngest, received a lot of intelligence abuse. And my youngest daughter ended up with ADHD. She's in a different dimension, and she is as smart as my oldest daughter, but she's put herself into a smaller dimension because of the abuse, which means if you have ADHD, you need to make sure you are living and functioning at a higher dimension meant for you. That should cure it. How to do that? Be smart. Be smart. Do smart shit. Expand your mind. And I do mean, like, figure out where you are in the spectrums, find your coordinates on these perspectives, and then do shit that's going to help you nurture and grow your mind in that space. That's it. That's ADHD. That is it. Holy fucking shit. See, this is why you need to study all of the fucking sciences. This is why you need to study all of them. And this is where I'm getting frustrated, because now I'm looking at medical doctors going, where's the rest of your education? You only studied biology and medicine? What the fuck? You only studied anatomy? And now I'm looking at psychologists. No comment. We know what I think of that. And so I'm looking at it going, well, where's the rest of your education? And I've had many conversations with many people on this particular subject where they've talked a lot about, we think that human beings aren't capable of doing this. Bottom line, we have a fucking phrase, jack of all trade, master of none, that reminds us that we couldn't possibly do this. Yes, you can. If we would stop, and here's why. This is why. Somebody long ago had something that we call insecurity. And they were so insecure that they mandated that no one younger than them was to be smarter than them. That's it. That age equaled an expectation of stupid, too smart. So if you are 5, you're expected to be X. And if you're 10, you're expected to be that. And if you're 30, you're expected to be that. As a result, our entire culture for centuries has practiced the fine art of suppressing and dumbing down our children until we are officially a bunch of dumb fucks. That is my professional opinion. We're all just a bunch of dumb fucks. As a result, when we have a child now coming up, everyone believes that children cannot do what they actually can do. That, and I had this conversation with somebody last night, and she said, well, how are they? And she couldn't wrap her mind around it. I watched her struggle going, this is way too much. There's no way. There's a way. You are not taking into account how vast the human brain is, what it's capable of learning. I did it. I'm not fucking special. I just don't follow the same fucking curriculum. I'm not special. You're all like me. I just followed a different path. I'm not a genius. I just had a different school. I had a different school. That's it. And I'm going to say this until I die, screaming at people. I am not special. Believe me, I am the epitome of what everyone could be if they followed a different curriculum. I'm living proof of it. At 12 years old, I was doing biological, I need to clarify this because it was not cruel. That's really important to me because of my ethics. It was not cruel. My family was so neglectful of animal abuse and animal care that it was fucking disgusting. And then they were also really fucking abusive. So that by the time I was 12, over 60 cats had been killed. Most of them died from distemper due to neglect. We had 60 cats because my parents didn't believe in fixing and spaying and neutering animals. We also had God knows how many puppies. Now, the puppies could give them money. So they loved breeding the dogs. Like I said, it's just a fraction of the animal abuse I've seen. By the time I was 12, I had over 5 generations of cats. Some of them with great trauma, no trauma, little trauma, feral, siblings, and I got to see all of their behaviors. So at 12 years old, I was mapping out vast graphs covering 60 cats over 5 generations to determine the behaviors of each cat with each generation from a feral mother watching it become domesticated. I was fucking 12! This is what happens when you let children just be and think. This is what we're capable of. I was doing like Egon length experiments at 12. I was just documenting and watching the logic of it. Fascinated over the psychology of cats, watching the PTSD develop in the cats, trying to figure out ways to cure the PTSD in the cats. Learning how to break the language barrier between the cats so that I could better communicate. And it worked, by the way. I found out how to say come in cat language, which is literally I started breaking down their language. Cats. And so it's interesting. It's really fascinating. And when you start to really take off the expectation, and I'll tell you, expectations equate to your beliefs. Your beliefs are so heavily intertwined and wrapped up in your limitations that if you think, therefore you are. And I cannot explain that to you enough. Really, I want you to process that statement. In philosophy, it's one of the very first things we cover. I think, therefore I am. Or is it, I am, therefore I think? Guys, they were talking about psychology. They were not talking about existentialism. They were talking about psychology in those statements. It's not, I think of myself and therefore I am. It's not, I exist, therefore I think. No, we're saying no. Like I said, you need interdisciplinary to see this shit. When you ask the question, I am, therefore I think, I am, as in, I know my identity. I know who I am. Therefore, I think of the things I believe. Now flip it. I believe, therefore I am, I become. Now let's take a look at the philosopher's compass. I want, I do, I become, therefore I am. Hey, 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 pussycats, don't dig on the yoga mat. Assholes. So, both of them, they ran right over here and just, oh, look, you're gonna just, my yoga mat. So, you have your I am, therefore I think. I think, therefore I am. It's, I think of it, I believe it, therefore I become it. And when you have the I am, I put the identity first. And so I think it. Technically, it's I am, therefore I think, therefore I am. Technically, that's what it is. I'm claiming that. That's mine. That's mine. I am, therefore I think, therefore I am. Oh, yes, there you go. That's my contribution. I believe it's Descartes and Socrates. I believe Socrates started it and then Descartes finished it. Well, I just finished it and I added on to it. It's I am, therefore I think, therefore I am. I'm loving my life. Trademark, copyright, Angela B. Chrysler. That's mine. Yes, I am, therefore I think, therefore I am. That's really what it is. So if you consciously choose who you are, and then you consciously choose your beliefs, and then you consciously become what you are, it's really fucking cool. So that you can start really shaping and moving and shifting all of this around so that you can cherry pick exactly who you want to be. This is authority. This is where healing starts, right here. Boom. We're all going to come around in a circle. I'm putting this little thing down going, this is the starting point. It is called authority. Oh, I cannot tell you enough. It isn't awareness. It's authority. Because you can be a dumb fuck who says, I'm going to take control of my life. There you go. In fact, children do it all the time. Infants do it. They're not aware, but they do it until the adult comes along, punches them down and says, you can't do that. You have to conform to my fourth perspective in the first person point of view. And God forbid you don't, because then I'm going to beat you or disown you. And then you're going to have to figure out how to get yourself some food. Because my opinion is more important than your security, safety, and belonging. That being said, authority, really, this is all that this is about, is authority. You want to know why you're traumatized? Because someone took your authority away. They don't take your authority away. They make you think they took your authority away. You have trauma because your authority was compromised. You keep having trauma because someone keeps traumatizing your authority. You think you've lost it. It ends when you finally step up and say, this is my authority. No one's going to tell me what my dimension is anymore. You got to claim your dimension. Now, a dimension is also a story. I told you, we are story beings. We are dimension walkers. Yeah, that's such awesome shit. I love saying it. Story beings, dimension walkers. And every time you read a book, you are walking into a different dimension. Every time you watch a movie, you are walking into a different dimension. That is who you are, and that is your authority. You can decide what your reality is. You can decide what your truth is, because after all, they are subjective. So says all of the philosophers and all of the scientists. So yes. Reality and truth are subjective. Subjective to you as you being the author. Author just means God. It's literally interchangeable. Author means God. God doesn't exist. Authorship does. The ability and the authority to sit there and say, this is who I am, this is my dimension, and this is what I am going to live. Let's meditate. I really got on this hype today, so I might be doing let's just breathe. My truth is often very reflective on everyone else's truth. Deep breath in. So I'm going to say some stuff that's very personal for me and that will probably hit the head on a lot of other people. My partner shrinks a lot. He shrinks so much that he is constantly over empathic. He is constantly internalizing, and he is constantly putting other people first to his own detriment. He also polices other people to make sure that they do not harm other people. I love this quality in him. However, there are two types of policing. There's policing the people who legitimately are evil, and I love this about him. But he also polices people who are not shrinking enough. And this is where he and I have conflict. So if he sees somebody who is not shrinking, he will tell them also to shrink. He has told me many times to shrink. Now, I am very conscious and aware of the psychology and the damage done with shrinking. So I have all of this work that I do to deliberately grow and expand the self so I can heal. And every time I did, he told me to shrink. It's one of the reasons why there is distance now. But in my brain, in the belief system, I can still go, oh, don't get too big because then he won't like you. Now, we're looking at me denying my own dimension to ensure that he approves of me. My partner is not malicious. He is very sweet. He does not know about any of this. And as a result, I can't talk to him about it. It is where we have a massive difference in opinion to the point where we are now experiencing such a vast perspective gap that we are no longer seeing eye to eye. My current work for me, my current healing journey, is giving myself the authority to no longer shrink myself to accommodate his expectations, knowing that it's going to result most likely in him not liking me. And I don't care anymore. I now prioritize my own health and my own growth and my own confidence in self more than his approval, even though it will result, most likely, in me never speaking to him again. This is a common problem for a lot of people. And this is where self-honesty is a vast tool when it comes to your mental health. It is a very difficult topic. It is a really fucking difficult topic. I get it. And a lot of people are not ready for that. Maybe tomorrow we will talk about not ready. Because, yeah, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for if you're not ready? I'm going to leave a note. This is for tomorrow. Not ready. Not ready. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Deep breath in. And out. Elizabeth, are you making roasted marshmallows now? She discovered that she can take large marshmallows, put them on a chopstick, and roast them over the gas stove. So she made like 12. It was awesome. Deep breath in. No, I'm meditating. Do you want one? She says. And out. I often feel myself holding back with my interdisciplinarity studies for fear of not being understood. That's another obstacle that I have. Deep breath in. I'm literally sacrificing my growth in exchange for being understood. Wow, that's powerful. This is where we're going to get real deep into your healing. Let's ask ourselves, what are you sacrificing your growth for? We're going to do this in a minute. Sacrificing your growth. Deep breath in. And out. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. In. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And now for the journaling. You are free of your beliefs. You are grateful for your resilience. Go ahead and write down what you are grateful for. Make sure you write in you are statements. This is where I wish I had like little tickers that pop up at the bottom here that regularly tell you how to do this so I don't have to keep repeating it every day. This is also located on my website. If you want the exact instructions, it's at thehealinggarden.org, anna's.healinggarden.org. And you can go down to the slideshow where it says healing exercises. And then I walk you through how to do those. We're going to do this for about 5 minutes. We sacrifice what we love for what we think we have to do. Beliefs have two pathways to them. They have the profound what the self is. But fear redirects our belief system, hijacks it, and turns our beliefs on what the self is not, what others are, and becomes control and defensive based. But we need our belief system to enforce what we want, what we value, and what we are. That's it. Oh, that took so long to find. Beliefs are what is and what we are. I see it now. It's the triangle, what we want, what we value, and what we are. This is your beliefs. And this is what you are supposed to be building for the solid self. However, when we are traumatized, they corrupt our beliefs and they change what we are and what is, and they hijack it and make us focus on what we are not, what others think, and they infuse it with our wanting and feeling the need to control, the defensiveness, the negativity, and the doom. And because they do that, they corrupt literally our primary one third of the self. So yes, beliefs are required. However, they must be 100% self-positive based. They must be self-positive based, self-focus based. And trauma occurs. The trauma process, I need to say the trauma process involves taking the belief system and twisting it about the other person. This is identity displacement. This is what I mean when I say identity displacement, is they take the belief, the R of yourself, and they make it about themselves. They displace their own identity in your belief system, or they displace your values with their values, or they displace your loves and desires with theirs. So these are the three different ways that a person can have their identity displaced. They can have their loves or their desires taken from the self and placed by the abuser. The ethics and the values. This is your perspective. This is when you're told you have to be the politics of your father, or you have to follow the politics of your husband. This is when you're told you have to follow the traditions of your parents. These are the types of abuse we all suffer from. And then the beliefs is the positive based self, who you are, what you are, and that gets altered into what they think you are. So these are the three ways that the self can be compromised during trauma. And what ends up happening is we have all of my work has been focusing mostly on resetting the identity and the ethics. Your beliefs are not supposed to be religious based. Oh, your beliefs, that's for a value and an ethic. That has no business being in your belief system. That is an art. Oh, this makes so much more sense. Oh, this is existentialism. Once you study existentialism, all of this makes sense. It's a small subject, right? This is what you learn from ontology, that religion and traditions and cultures have nothing to do with beliefs. That has to do with your ethics. But it's been infused through abuse to be made into your belief system. And so things are in the wrong order. Oh my God, this makes so much more sense. I have so much work to do now, and I'm just so happy. Deep breath in and out. Deep breath in. The self is made up of three parts: what you want, what you value, and what you believe you are. And what you believe you are is based off of what you want and what you value. It needs to be all about the self. Abuse happens when the self is taken away from you. And when the self is taken away from you, it plunges you into something that philosophers refer to as an existential crisis. The existential crisis is when you lose your coordinates, which tells you which dimension you're in relationship to the Big Bang. So you become lost. The concept of lonely and abandoned don't exist. These are abstracts that were invented by abusers to keep you confused, lost, and unfound. Because if you find yourself, then you'll know your coordinates, and then you won't have an existential crisis. And then you can take yourself back. And they don't want that. So they deliberately keep you lost and confused so that you don't have your coordinates. They use abstract to confuse you. So you don't know your coordinates. So you end up going, I'm lost, I'm confused. Who am I? Which is why you have amnesia. Which is why a lot of people walk around saying, who am I? It isn't literal. It is both metaphorical and literal. There are two ways that we know the self. There is the name. There is the parents. And then there is the self. And this is not abstract. This is existential. The study of how we exist. The study of our existence. And it all focuses on the self. Religious people will supplant the self with religion. Traditional people, traditionalists, will supplant the self with tradition. Because they have an ultimatum. They have an ulterior motive. And their ulterior motive is they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be abandoned. And they want to keep their belonging. So they literally enslave people into their belonging by giving you an existential crisis, by denying yourself. They enslave you by taking away the self. Now, this is done on such a deep psychological level that people don't even realize it's being done. And when you focus on what was done to you, you're missing the big picture. All of the little things, little things, like rape. For God's sakes, I wore chains for 6 months of my life. And it's a little thing. Because in perspective, now I'm looking at that 6-month point in my life going, wow, that really is little. Because in the grand scheme of things, when you really start to see things omniscient, you realize what's really going on. And most people have no fucking clue what is really going on. We live in a clock. That's it. We just live in a clock. It's really anticlimactic. It's really anticlimactic. We live in a clock. And this clock has a lot of moving parts to it. We live on a cog in that clock, and that cog is called Earth. And where precisely our cog in that Earth is a coordinate, a particular location from a one point of relativity, which is the Big Bang, which is where everything is measured from. We don't even know what the Big Bang is. There's a lot of speculation on that. We know it's not the beginning of the universe, but there's a lot we don't know. But at the end of the day, the Big Bang is our point of relativity. It's really fucking cool. And when you realize that time is actually a dimension, it is a coordinate and a location from a point that has to do with the Big Bang. Now, and you know that we're a clock that's moving away from the Big Bang, and it just tells time. It tells dimension. It tells your location. A clock does not tell time. A clock tells your location to the Big Bang. A calendar tells your location to the Big Bang. That's really what it is. And the clock has multiple dimensions within multiple dimensions right into your imagination. And you have your own world of your own dimension, a macro dimension inside your mind that is most likely not compatible with 90% of the people in your life. Now you have trauma because your dimension is incompatible with a different dimension. In addition, there are 12 different languages per 4 different points of view, in addition to the unique region in which you live. So there are 48 variations of language that exists within this clock of ours that also vary depending upon the actual language and the region in which we live. There. You have lost your coordinates. That's all. That is what's going on. That is where you are. That is who you are. That's what's going on. Once you figure out who you are, you can stop being confused. You know what's going on. Your existential crisis stops. You never needed healing to begin with. You're just in the wrong dimension because you're a dimension walker. You're a story being. And when you are not in the right story, that's going to fuck you up. That's really going to fuck you up. It's very, really, really, really important that priority 1, you are the author. Priority 2, get back in your story. Because if you don't, you're going to have trauma. Because you exist with your own frequency that is only tuned to your dimension. And if you are not in the right dimension, tuned to your frequency, it's going to fucking hurt. That's all that's wrong with you. Nothing. You're just not the author. of your own story. I have something that I refer to as the philosopher's compass to help people find this information so they can get back to where they need to get. Thank you so much for your audience today. I know I did not do much as far as the meditation and stuff. I had a lot to say because I've been trying to find these words to finally explain them in a way that doesn't make me sound crazy to perspectives lower than me. Lower. It's not a hierarchy. Over there. Neighboring perspectives. That's the word I needed. It's not higher or lower. It's my neighboring perspectives. Neighbors. You are my neighbors. I love this word. Neighboring perspectives. Yes. Oh, I love finding the words I need. Neighboring perspectives. So yes, it really is difficult finding a way to communicate the omniscient point of view where I am to my neighbors. And it's one of the hardest challenges that I find. And this is a thing that I've been looking at since the 7th perspective. So that being said, if you go back on my podcasts and you watch literally from the 5th perspective and on, that is, well, from the 7th perspective, that is me trying to communicate everything to you that I have been trying to say in this video. It took me that long to learn enough to articulate what I needed to say clearly to my neighbors. There. You know, I think I'm understood now. I think I'm finally understood. It's really, really important that we get educated fast. Thank you for your audience, and may the kindest of words always find you.